For more than 4 billion years, the Earth has made an annual orbit around the Sun. For the past 128 years, those orbits have been reflected in the annual arrival and departure of students in the Peoria Unified School District. Long-term residents and employees of the district have seen great changes during that century and a quarter, but it is safe to say that no one has experienced anything quite like last year. But through it all, through the struggles and successes, protests and promotions, we never lost track of why we are here and who we are fighting for. Every student, every day. And it all starts with the power of one. One teacher, one administrator, one staff member, one person dedicated to making a difference. One person to offer help when it is needed. One person to supply hope where there is none. One person being there when nobody else was. One person who believes that our students will shape the future. One person, one student, our future. In a district with over 37,000 students and nearly 4,000 employees, it would be easy to be a face in the crowd. But that isn't what Peoria is about. Every one of you is here to make a difference, to be the one person each student needs so they can be the best person they can be. One person to help shape them so they can shape the future. Be the power of one.
From an early age, we're taught the basics of budgeting from our family. Do your chores and earn an allowance. Save what you earn so that you can pay for what you need and hopefully have some left over for a rainy day. Those lessons carry over to when we're adults and earn a salary and pay bills every month. School finance isn't so simple, and few have a complete understanding of how it works. In the next few minutes, I'm going to provide a crash course in school finance to help you better understand how our schools are funded. Schools receive their funding from the following sources: local property owners, the state of Arizona, and the federal government. Local and state sources provide about 90% of the funding, and around 10% comes from the federal government. But here's where it starts to get complicated. Every dollar that comes into our schools has rules attached to it that mandate how it can be spent. Funds from the state are split into two buckets: maintenance and operations in one bucket and capital in another, with 97% of the funds in maintenance and operations and 3% of the funds in capital. Maintenance and operations funds pay for daily operations of our schools, including salaries, transportation, utilities, and general supplies like paper. Capital funds pay for durable items that are owned or used by the school for many years, like buildings, furniture, buses, textbooks, and technology. All districts are required to have a balanced budget and cannot spend more than is provided in the two buckets. If the money in either of the buckets is not enough to meet the needs of our students, the district can ask the local community to pass an override or a bond. Overrides and bonds are different, and the funds they generate add to the different buckets. Overrides are for the maintenance and operations bucket, and thanks to our community, an override passed in November 2015, which allowed us to bring back free all-day kindergarten and provide salary increases for our staff, as well as support invaluable resources, such as nurses, arts education, reading programs, gifted education, athletics, and extracurricular activities. With voter approval, the Peoria Unified School District may also sell bonds, but cannot exceed a set amount. They work similar to a line of credit and fund capital projects that have a useful life longer than 5 years. Throughout the history of Peoria Unified, our community has passed bonds to pay for necessary expenditures that were not funded through our annual budget. Recently, a group of Peoria community members conducted a study of our present and future capital needs and held public meetings to evaluate the need to go out for a bond in 2018. Based on the advisory groups and district administration's recommendations, our governing board voted unanimously to approve a bond election in November to fund facility upgrades at our older schools, arts education equipment and technology for our students, improvements to our career and technical education facilities, new buses, and the construction of a new elementary and a new high school. Most importantly for our community, the bonds are structured so that the secondary bond tax rate will stay at or below current levels. This continues Peoria Unified's commitment to providing a world-class education to our students while also being responsible stewards of the funding provided by our community. More details about the bond can be found on our website. Does school finance make more sense now? I hope so. But if you still have questions or want more information, you can find all of the details of our past and present budgets and expenditures online, or just give us a call.
For more than 4 billion years, the Earth has made an annual orbit around the Sun. For the past 128 years, those orbits have been
So, yeah. So they're both not on the agenda. That was very good. Well, welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We just finished executive session. Sorry, it ran a little bit late. And I'd like to ask all board members to come up to the front. We have a surprise tonight.
Governing board members, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, we are pleased to have the choirs with us from Sunrise Mountain High School as well as Liberty High School. They'll be joining together to lead us in the national anthem. So I'd like to invite them up to the front to get set, and I'd like to invite everybody else to stand for our national anthem. And before they begin, if you would just join me in a brief moment of silence.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
If you all please would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And thank you to Sunrise Mountain Liberty High School. You may return to your seats, please. And as they are doing so, if we could just give both of those choirs, as well as their leaders, Ms. Tanya Bamey and Mr. Josh Schaefer, a big round of applause.
Okay, item, I guess next would be Europe, Danielle.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Pingarelli, members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, you may have found it a bit odd to see two rival schools within our district, Liberty Lions, Sunrise Mountain High School, joining together. But I'll tell you, it is something incredibly special, and we thought quite fitting to bring two schools together in celebration of National Arts in Education Week, which we are celebrating all across our district this week. So just a very big thank you again, Mr. Schaefer, Ms. Bamey, all that you do. Incredible work all year round, and to bring your choirs together, that's just truly special. Board members, as you know, we are extremely proud of our arts education programs that we offer all across 42 of our schools. And so this is really quite a special week to get to pay extra attention to the arts and what they bring to all 37,000 of our students and how they enrich really the whole child across our district. We are doing a number of things across our district as we're celebrating arts education this week. I want to make note, we are particularly proud of the efforts and very thankful for the strong leadership we have in Mr. Panzer, who leads our arts education efforts. He oversees all arts education across the district, and he certainly deserves a round of applause. And Mrs. Pingarelli, if you don't mind, I hope you'd allow me to just share a little bit more about arts education for those that may not know all that we do in this area across our district. It's truly remarkable. Peoria Unified's elementary school students experience art in 4 different content areas: music, art, choir, and band. And at the high school level, students have the opportunity to engage in 7 different artistic disciplines and more than 50 different course offerings. Our 11 different content areas are served by more than 140 arts educators. In addition to student exposure, our staff have the luxury of enjoying a special art exhibit in our lobby throughout the year. That's spearheaded by Mr. Panzer, and I should note as well, Mrs. Justina Riley, who works in our arts education department, as well as Ms. Stacy Hamilton are with us this evening as well, and they do tremendous amount of work, and we're so pleased to have them. And in particular, they work on this arts education exhibit that we get to enjoy here in the district office in our lobby. And I can tell you, those of us that work in this building, and especially those that don't get the opportunity often to go out into our schools and experience all the great things our kids are doing, so appreciate having this right here in this building and get to enjoy a little piece of the arts and what are the impressive work that our students are working on. In addition to the lobby, our schools across Peoria, as I said, have really been doing quite a bit to celebrate arts education with arts-related themes all week long, from a hallway being converted into a beehive at Zuni Hills to an artist-themed Spirit Week at Park Ridge, Centennial High School Band, who stormed the halls of our district office this week, and that was really a treat for all of us here. So we're just really pleased to have that happening. In addition, our district has many partnerships that relate specifically to arts education, and they're worth noting, and a lot of them are due really to the wonderful work of Mr. Panzer as well. Partnerships with the Phoenix Art Museum, the Musical Instrument Museum, Theater Works, Child's Play, Arizona Ballet, and many more that offer field trips and arts experiences to our students that they wouldn't otherwise have. You all also are very familiar with the Peoria Arts and Cultural Festival that we have every year, coming up March 30th. And it's never one that you want to miss, and that's through a partnership with the city of Peoria. So I share all this just to tell you, really, arts are alive and well. Not only do we celebrate them, not only do we really just look, and Mr. Panzer looks everywhere for different and unique opportunities for our students to experience the arts, but there's research, actually, that indicates that students with an education rich in the arts historically have higher SAT scores. They're less likely to drop out of school, and as I said, they just enjoy so much more as far as it comes to shaping the whole child. So we're so proud of this program, and we're so proud of the work that all of our arts educators do. I think I noticed one other arts educator here with us, Mr. Eager. He's here with us as well, and I can note him because he actually was one of my teachers too. So he's extra special, so thank you for being here, Mr. Eager, and for all that you do too. So I share all of that with you, board. And again, we thank you, students, for being here with us tonight. We've selected a couple of them to come before you tonight in case you have any comments or questions for them. Of course, one from each of our high schools to represent us. So Natasha Krusel and Shepherd Jones, if you would come on up in case the board has any comments they'd like to share with you. I'll invite you up.
Well, thank you very much. Let's start with Mrs. Connect.
So why choir?
Is this thing on? Okay, sorry. Why choir? Why not choir is the biggest question. Choir is about family, and it's about being able to be yourself without fear of any judgment. And if that means being yourself is sometimes you're a little too rowdy in the classroom, then we accept that fully. And choir is a place where you can grow not only as a vocalist, but as a team player, and that can also help you in any careers that you might be doing that involve a lot of people as well.
Bit hard to follow that.
Yeah.
To me, it's just, like she said, it's about family. It's a place where you can really be yourself and get along and get away from the stress of the day and all the work and all everything. And needless to say, we do work hard, but it's a lot of fun to work hard in choir.
We can tell that you work hard. It was a beautiful performance. I got legitimate goosebumps. You both said some of the things that I wanted to say about arts education. I've been around for a long, long time, but my family moved to the Peoria Unified School District in part because of the quality arts programming. We came from a district that had art on a cart that was being delivered by teachers that were great teachers, but they weren't art teachers. And so I'm so thrilled and grateful that you have the experience of the kind of expertise that we have in the Peoria School District. It's really amazing. And you talked about preparing you for the workforce. Sometimes there's these skeptics that'll say, why are you spending your time doing the arts, whether it's visual art or performing arts or whatever, because there aren't any jobs in that. So this is what I tell them. Next time you go to a blockbuster movie, sit and watch the entire credits, all of them. Every one of those people has a high-paying job in the arts. And who knows, there may be some for you too. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Mr. Sandoval?
Oh, thank you. And I think you answered at least partially the question that I had. There's no doubt, again, I've always, and I'll continue to say it, all the programs that we have in PUSD definitely puts all of our students in a position to be successful. But to look at you and your smiling faces and your confidence and your demeanor, in addition to your wonderful voices. So thank you for that. But from a workforce regard, as you talk about some of the other life skills, if you will, that being in choir certainly teaches you. But how do you feel, what are some of the things that you feel will make you successful in the workforce that choir has influenced?
I think choir is exceptionally good at teaching you how to cooperate with others and how to be confident and project yourself into a situation, which I know is very important in work environments.
Choir teaches you how to speak in public, as I'm doing right now, because without it, I would not have become more confident enough to stand up in front of 5 very important people in our district, and I would not be able to answer this feeling all right about what I'm going to say, and all my anxieties just melt away when I'm in choir, and they also melt away when I speak in public now.
Very good. Well, Mr. Eager, Schaefer, is it Bainey? Is that correct? Was it? Bainey. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Panzer, for your leadership. I will say this publicly to each and every one of you. It is an honor to sit up here and serve you. So thank you for your passion and your commitment to success.
Thank you, Mrs. Doan.
Well, music's my favorite. I was always, yes, you guys were excellent. It was good listening to you. And I was going to mention something about the confidence that is offered by, you start in a group and you learn how to cooperate and put yourself forth and be yourself. And I appreciate the job that has been done here, and you guys are very excellent examples. And I know that you're going to carry that. Some of you may go into the arts and you may not, but it improves your life. And I don't really have any questions that weren't already answered, but I just want to say I appreciate what you've done, what the teachers and directors have done, and the work that you students have put in. And I guess maybe I do have a question. For me, if I can get a little singing into my day, it makes my day completely different. It's wonderful. How do you feel about that?
Recently, I was very ill and I lost my voice for about a week and a half.
I hate that.
And I am in choir every single day, and not being able to sing led to that week and a half being one of the most miserable I've had in a very long time. And if I don't get to sing, which is how I let my feelings out without maybe necessarily explaining how specific I'm feeling, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I didn't get at least 5 minutes a day, or even 30 seconds, you know, because those 30 seconds to 5 minutes to an hour to whatever, they can really transform a person in a way that you can't describe unless you've been through it yourself.
Thank you.
Once again, hard to follow, well said. I think singing at least once a day, maybe more, is great. I was not a very good singer for a very long time. I still don't think I am, but so I don't have the best confidence in my singing. So my favorite time of the day is when I just first get home. I'm the only one there, and I just let her rip.
Excellent.
Nice.
Well, thank you for coming, and I'm still, at my age, a little shy, so I probably would have done better if I joined choir when I was back in high school. So I really appreciate you guys, and Mrs. Doan does have, I think, I haven't heard everybody, but I believe has the best voice of all of us for singing. And both of our daughters are in the arts. One's in New York right now, so I really am a big advocate for the arts, so I really appreciate all of you coming, and thank you very much.
I just have one question for Mr. Schaefer. How many kids are in your program now?
At Liberty?
Uh-huh.
So this fall, we have 7.
Up from what?
So from when?
From when you started?
So we started with 7, 3 years ago.
7 to 85?
So
That's pretty good.
yeah, started with 7, and then the first year we ended up with about 80 staying with us that year. Last year was about 150.
Wow.
Well, I thought that was worth noting because that's an incredible gift that your leadership has given to your campus and to all these kids. And so thank you very much.
Take that one step further too. We would not be where we are, and I said this to the kids a couple weeks ago when we came together for the youth choir. We would absolutely not be where we are if we did not have a truly to look up to. And anybody in Peoria knows that for the better part of the last 10, 15 years, Sunrise Mountain High School music has been of performing arts
Absolutely.
and musical theater and to have said to me, did she step out? For Tanya to have extended to me her friendship and her faith in our kids at Liberty, and so many of her kids to be connected with our kids and help us to grow and to aspire to become someday even just a piece of what they've been able to achieve. Very inspiring.
Well, thank you to you and Ms. Mamie. I hope she's still around. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Can we give them, these students and these
Yes.
teachers, one more round of applause? They're exceptional. And if we may, I have one more recognition this evening before we move on to the board recognitions, but it is on behalf of the American Heart Association, which has been a wonderful nonprofit partner of ours here in the district. And we actually have some wonderful news to share regarding our partnership with the American Heart Association. So we found out that the Peoria Unified School District was the number 4 district in Maricopa County in 1718 and raised over $57,131 in life-saving dollars as they measure it. We were specially recognized by the American Heart Association and received a top 5 district award. Vistancia Elementary was number 2 in the entire North Valley and received a top 5 school award as well. So they certainly have passed on their congratulations to us, and we're really pleased to have Morgan from the American Heart Association with us. And I'm going to invite her up here. As she's making her way up, I'll just share the schools that participated in reaching that goal with us. Vistancia Elementary, Sunset Heights Elementary, Frontier Elementary, Coyote Hills Elementary, Apache Elementary, Oasis Elementary School, Cotton Bowl Elementary, Canyon Elementary, Alta Loma Elementary, and Ira A. Murphy Elementary School, all that contributed to that goal. So obviously we are incredibly proud of them, and I know Morgan has just a brief remark to share.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight, Mrs. Powles-Thompson, board members and guests. We can't express our appreciation and gratitude for your district and the impact we have made this past year. Our program, Kids Heart Challenge, is celebrating our 40th anniversary, and we are inspiring thousands of students to maintain ideal heart health through eating healthy, exercise, and staying away from tobacco. This year, we have also incorporated a social and emotional well-being into our heart health education, focusing on the whole child. So thank you so much. We are very excited for the year ahead and look forward to empowering students to fulfill their potential and to live a happy, heart-healthy life. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And I would like to present this award right here, I'll show it to you, to Danielle on behalf of the entire district. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Morgan, to the American Heart Association, and I know we will display this proudly, and I know our schools will all continue their good work as they continue to support the American Heart Association. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, I failed to mention that we do have one seat that's empty tonight. That's President Ceja Martinez. She is doing board-related work. And she's not able to be here, but she did say she's going to be watching, I think. I don't know why, but she's going to be watching from where she's at. So if she's watching, hello. I know. Okay, I failed to say that. So I guess let's move on to, actually before board recognitions, if all of you would like to leave, or if you'd like to stay, you can stay. I'm not kicking you out, but now is a good time if you want to go and go do homework or whatever you need to do.
Sing.
That just seemed to be the obvious.
Thank you, everyone. It's really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I don't. I like college.
All right, well. Well, let's move on to 6.2, board recognitions. I guess let's start with Mrs. Doan.
I don't have anything, but do we have to do 5.1?
Did we miss it?
We went right into
You know what?
recognitions.
Oh,
Do we not
I guess we passed 5.1. Okay, so 5.1, can we go back in time, or do I? Okay, so 5.1 is address agenda and consider adoption or recommended changes, and that would be if board members would need to change anything.
I don't think so.
No.
So we're moving on.
All right. Just wondered.
Maybe I subconsciously just passed that one up. Okay, so we are at 6.2, board recognitions. Mrs. Doan, you said you don't have anything?
I don't.
Okay, Mr. Sandoval?
Yes. Thank you. So last night, we, had the honor to attend the parent dinner at Sunset Heights, which is a dinner that recognizes our leaders in our parent groups at each campus. So, once again, it's always inspiring to meet individuals who, their altruistic values, their volunteerism, to help us as a district, continue to be great every day, serve our 37,000 plus students, and put them again in a position to be successful. So it was a great dinner, and a lot of individuals there who, certainly, I'm proud to call, a friend, and certainly, I'm proud that they are, part of this this team in PUSD.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Connect.
Yes, I had the opportunity to attend the Arizona School Boards Association Law Conference. It's the best attended conference of the year. It was really excellent, and I do intend to bring some information back. I thought the most impactful, the most useful was data that was presented that talks about state by state, which school districts even, it's down to the district level, are experiencing the most growth, and then comparing state to state. I'm happy to report that while Arizona has some achievement issues as compared to other states, that we are one of the leaders in taking kids that are low achieving and growing them from where they are. That's across the state of Arizona. So I'm going to be very happy to share some of that data. Also, of course, we saw the legal updates, the impact of last year's legislation and those things that now school districts will be implementing as is reflected in some of our policies. And there was a lot of discussion about social emotional learning, which we've heard brought up several times tonight. It's a common theme in education these days. So it was a pleasure to represent us, and I'll bring some good data back.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have anything this evening.
Mrs. Pangarelli, I have
Yes.
a few things.
Sure, go ahead.
If you could. Thank you. This district is all about heart, I've decided, and this was very, very powerful today. It's also been about arts, and it's been a week of remembering. So it's been a week of art and a week of remembering as we went through 9/11. And some of the recognitions tonight really tie into the patriotism that is felt throughout this district and with some of our people. I need to share a couple. First is congratulations to Sunrise Mountain's law enforcement group on placing 7th at nationals. Kirsten Enos is the law enforcement teacher at Sunrise Mountain, and we appreciate all the work she continues to do to make our students shine at a national level. Also at Sunrise Mountain, I'd like to recognize fire science instructor Danny Camella. He is one of 14 people who have been chosen to be deployed before Hurricane Florence, before it hits our East Coast, and his team is going to be responsible for managing an emergency operations center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Third, I'd like to recognize Aaron Cartland. He's the only student who served on the honor guard for Senator John McCain's memorial service. He is from Ironwood High School and also serves on the honor guard for the POW, KIA, and MIA for Arizona. And as I understand, we also have 2 candidates from Peoria High School and 2 from Cactus High School that attended the memorial service as well. And then my fourth, and so they all have, they're together, is tomorrow evening Liberty High School's varsity football team is playing against Leland High School. And since this is the high school that Pat Tillman graduated from, the school has invited all our local police and fire and military and first responders to the game to be recognized. And in addition, they've invited the Arizona Cardinals, who will have representatives attending the game. They have many, many exciting things that they planned and are planning at the game to pay tribute to those in attendance. They will also have been fundraising all week. And at the game, they're going to present a check to the Pat Tillman Foundation as a thank you for those who've served our country. So Peoria, yeah, it is. It's very, very special, and thank you, and thank everybody. And John, thank you for the last one. You got involved.
Thank you. And I just wanted to thank all the schools that had 9/11 memorials or morning recognitions, I guess. I was not able to attend, but I'm hopefully they were well attended.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to 7.1. Request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. We have two. Let's see, we have Christopher Wedigan. Yes. Thank you very much.
Hello. All right. Hello, school board members. Thank you for having me today. I just have like a minor issue or question I wanted to ask about, which involves modified Monday lunches. As a member of the Centennial High School newspaper, I took a survey of 100 students, 25 from each grade, and I asked if they wanted to add more types of, or more foods that were breakfast related rather than just lunch foods. So an overwhelming 87% were in approval, 5% were undecided, and just 8% disapproved. Some of the top food choices were pancakes, waffles, eggs, and breakfast burritos. Many students cited the early lunch times of 9:35 and 10:45 a.m. as reasons for making a brunch instead of a regular lunch. Many of my peers also say they're unable to get to school early enough to buy breakfast in the morning or wake up early enough to make their own. So my question is, are we able to create more of a brunch type modified Monday lunch by adding breakfast foods, or are we able to change the schedule to the lunches or the day to make the lunches later in the day?
Well, in terms of public comment too, the board can't kind of give dialogue back and forth, but I can ask Mrs. Pellis-Thompson to look into that and to
Give the man an answer.
Yes.
Mr. Croto, could you follow this gentleman and get some information?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's good investigative journalism.
Yeah. All right. Christian Amor.
Evening. Good evening, Ms. Fingarelli, Superintendent Pellis-Thompson, members of the board, and everybody else who's present. I was actually planning to come see you, not necessarily this evening, but I was encouraged to come this evening to talk real briefly about a program that has been instituted at Liberty High School, and it kind of ties in with the conversations we've been having about social emotional learning, public safety, and all of the other security-based things we're doing on our campuses and whatnot. And this past year, I had the opportunity to bring a facility dog onto our campus. This is Leo. He is a certified and trained nationwide, and he is on campus to serve the entire student population, not just students with special needs. Since he's been on campus, not only is he absolutely adored by every single student and staff, I don't know if you noticed when the choir kids saw him walking in, they all lost their minds, and everybody petted him on the way out the door. He's been such an amazing asset to our program. He is now in a program called Life Skills with Leo for our ABLE program. We're teaching him grooming. He participated in Arts Week by being a nude model. He didn't have to wear his vest for the Advanced Arts 3 and 4 class, and so he modeled and they sketched. He's been in Storming the Halls. He's been called upon by students who need him for testing anxiety issues and all sorts of concerns like that. And just the mere walking through the halls and watching the demeanor of the students and staff just raised to a very positive. He's been a tremendous asset for building social relationships between kids that might not otherwise even talk to each other because they could just kind of commune around him. And I'd like to see more facility dogs on campuses. So I'm hoping to be able to present more to you guys in the future. He does have a website, a Facebook page, if you want to ever see all of the things that he's been involved in and the difference he's made on our campus alone. And I've had inquiries from other high schools going, how can we get a dog on our campus? So I just wanted to introduce him and share a little bit of that and let you know that I'll be back. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Pangarelli, I will have Mr. Savoy follow up.
Okay.
If you would.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to 8.1, approval of the consent agenda. Would any members need to pull any items from the consent agenda? Nope. All right, then I would need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Is that on? Oh, I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Members, please cast your vote. All right, that passes 4-0. Okay, next agenda item is 10.1. Safety and well-being update. Mr. Croto, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Governing Board Clerk, Mrs. Pingarelli, Governing Board members, Superintendent Pallas Thompson. I'm here to give you a short update tonight on safety and well-being. As you know, safety and well-being is one of the 4 prongs of our strategic plan, one of the 4 areas, and we're here to just share with you what we've been doing in this safety and well-being perspective of our strategic plan. Inside the strategic plan, or in the perspective of safety and well-being, we have a 3-prong area in the task force. That's preparedness, prevention and intervention, and advocacy. So I'm going to go through those each shortly with you, kind of outline on a 30,000-foot level what we've been doing in those 3 areas, and then stand for any questions that you may have with this. Our first area, preparedness. We've been working quite hard in the preparedness area. First of all, our emergency operations plan, our EOP, you might hear us speak about. We've created and trained all our schools on the emergency operations plan, our administrators. Mr. Savoy started this last spring with a group he put together, and also had a group attend FEMA training in Maryland and go through some of the top-of-the-line preparedness as far as emergency plans. So we do now have a uniform emergency operations plan at every site. We've gone through that quite extensively with our administrative teams. We do have new flip charts for our classrooms, those type of things, and we've instituted on the campuses, and we're working towards doing some different procedures with the emergency operation plans so that in the event that our law enforcement or fire departments have to respond, that they have information about our campuses. So maps, contact information, we're working hard to make sure that's all in the databases for them. Incident Command System class, our National Incident Command. We've trained all our administrators in ICS 100. That is a class on incident command structure. So they have all that training. We constantly collaborate with our local fire and police agencies. We've sat down with our agencies and gone over our plan. Our SROs we've talked with extensively about our plan so that we're all on the same page when it comes to emergency preparation. We have continuous professional development going on. We are going actually next week to get CEPTED certification, crime prevention through environmental design. And that is in preparation for our school site or our safety assessments that are coming up starting September 27th. If you remember earlier I spoke to you, we've put a group together, terrorist liaison officers, police, fire, some specialists in our district that are going to start conducting safety assessments on all of our campuses and come up with things that we need to do to better prepare our campuses for emergencies and keep them safe. The last bit is consistent monitoring. One of the things as we began our emergency operation plans is we decided or found out that we need a consistent form of monitoring. So we're doing that, and that's monitoring the fire drills, monitoring what local campuses are doing. to keep in touch with our emergency operations plan and the preparedness. So we're working on a system with that. I'd like to point out that in this training, I mentioned they visited FEMA. That was all at a no cost to this district. The site assessments are going to also be a no cost to the district, that we're doing all this with fiscal responsibility. There may be costs as we come up with things that need to be done in the future. So I'm not up here saying that it's going to be no cost that we make all this. As we find things that need to be repaired, fixed, or implemented, there may be a cost that we come and say we need some help with and make decisions on. So that's the area of preparedness. The next prong, prevention and intervention. We've put together a social and emotional task force. I know Mrs. Connect just mentioned that earlier about social and emotional well-being. We now have a task force, and that's made up of our multi-tiered support system coordinator, Dr. Marshall Walters, and she is here with us this evening, so we'd like to welcome her. She is new on that team, along with our support services coordinator, Kathleen Leonard, our district lead nurse, Lisa Alexander, our district lead psychologist, Janine Fisher, and our district lead counselor. We do not have a person that sits at the district level right now, but we do have Marcy Bieber, who is currently the lead counselor at Liberty, and she has been the lead counselor for the district. So we're moving forward to try to fill that, but that makes up our social and emotional task force. This team of very qualified professionals, we're very impressed with what they're doing. One of the big things that they're doing is a needs assessment across our entire district. So what are our needs? We hear often that, and I know you hear it too, that we need our behavior interventionalists back. We need stuff for facility dogs, as she mentioned tonight. We have all these needs, and we want to make sure that we're responsible instead of just putting these programs or things in place that we really need that. It addresses our needs. So this team, this task force I mentioned earlier, has been instrumental in starting that needs assessment. They're looking at social and emotional curriculum, things we may add, things we currently do, such as Leader in Me, Capturing Kids' Hearts, Unitowns. We're looking to build that, but our focus also for this team is what are we doing, why are we doing it, and does it serve the purpose that we need? And that's really the focus. We're excited about this area. It's a neat aspect that we're really looking forward to develop. Advocacy is our last piece of this three-pronged process. We have some response in the spring of 2018. Shortly after the Florida incident, Superintendent Pallas Thompson asked Mr. Savoy to put together a community task force of sort, and they did that. And we listened to our community. We had a great meeting. It went 2-3 hours long. We took some input. We've started to produce all this. Are we there yet? Totally, no. But we do have another parent task force meeting coming up on September 26th. I think Mrs. Connect was at the last task force meeting, maybe not, but I can't remember. I have a hard time remembering yesterday, but I think she was. So, and she's nodding her head yes. So we have that meeting again coming up September 26th. We're looking forward to it. We're going to update. We're going to receive more input. We're really going to talk about our social and emotional task force and what they see as needs in our schools and things like that to help that group out too. And then we have a community engagement forum coming up on September 20th. And that's going to be a neat aspect. We're going to talk about all the pieces of our strategic plan, but safety is definitely going to be one of them. So we're reaching out to our community and really asking for the input and what we need to do to concentrate on this area. I'll stand for questions now, but before, just a quick comment. We plan on coming to the governing board every quarter with updates as we start rolling on these safety audits and all that. So we plan on coming quarterly to update you on how things are going and what we're doing and answer any questions or concerns that you may have. So this time I'll stand for any questions if you have any, and that's what we're doing. That's our update.
Thank you. Mr. Sandoval, would you like to start us?
Sure. Mr. Croto, thank you, sir. What I feel is truly a global benefit with regard to this process that you're going through and really that we're going through as a district, tied to our strategic plan, is, getting a clear picture and a true understanding that every site has a story, right? An understanding that, different sites have different needs, especially from a social and emotional regard, right? Some sites may need more counselors or behavioral specialists or psychologists than others, et cetera. So there, for me, lies some knowledge that will truly make us put us in a position to go from good to great, right? To truly understand, the needs at those various sites. And with that said, when we go to the advocacy page, I'm assuming as you go along and talk to various stakeholders, your next report or one of your reports will include, a line item that refers to student engagement, right? So I think it's important, without question, to understand, input from all of our stakeholders. Yes, the community for sure, without questions, our teachers, staff, individuals at the DAC. But when you take a look at our primary target audience, it's the 37,000 plus, it's those students who have a voice, who understand what's going on, at their sites, whose information is invaluable to ensuring that the outcome of the strategic plan and how we execute and those tactics are relevant and make a difference. So thank you for your efforts, and looking forward to reports as we further along.
Thank you. We definitely will include that, and that's a great point. So thank you for pointing that out.
Mrs. Doan?
I just want to thank you for the update. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Connect?
Thank you, Mr. Croto. I echo the thoughts of Mr. Sandoval. I think adding student voice and student input to this process would be an excellent idea. And I just want to commend you and your team, especially on the prevention and intervention part. Sometimes we start talking about like anti-bullying and the conversation stops there. This social emotional component and this prevention and intervention component is so much bigger than that, so much more complex, and I can tell by your presentation that those other components are on your radar screen. So thank you for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of these things develop and grow.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you, and I'll look forward to the next quarter update.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Next item, 10.2. First reading, Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory Revision to Current Policy BBBA, Board Member Qualifications. Mr. Savoy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson. Some good news for all of you, just a quick update with the approval of the consent agenda this evening on the second read for Policy Section D. We have now completed sections E, F, and D. So good work. Board members, we're on policy section B tonight. I have a few policies to bring forward, and section B is governing board. So the first one this evening, as you had stated, Mrs. Pangarelli, is a very simple update. You can see there in the red, describing the qualification of being a board member. And so the addition is, and this aligns to Arizona Revised Statute, Section 15-421, so this was updated by the Arizona Legislature, that no employee of the district, and what's being added is including a person who directly provides certificated or support services to the district as an employee of a third-party contractor or the spouse of such employee may hold membership on the governing board. So it is adding language that a person who may be a third party to our district would not be able to serve on the board. So that's the addition there. If you have any questions on that, that was the only add in that policy section.
Any comments, concerns? No. All right, so then.
So this is the first read, so it's discussion, and I believe we move on to the next policy section.
All right.
Which I think is 10.3.
Sorry, I'm just I'm out of sync here. All right. Okay, 10.3, first reading, Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory Revision to Current Policy BDF Advisory Committees.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Under Arizona's open meeting law, board subcommittees are subject to the same provisions of the law as the governing board. So this also includes the ability for subcommittees that the board may establish to also hold executive session. This is an addition by the Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory Group. And if you look at the policy in BDF, you can see that that's what the addition is. Now, when you think of advisory committees, one that comes to mind for me very quickly is a calendar committee, or when the board established the committee to study school boundaries. So those would be examples of subcommittees that the board may impanel. So it says here that if an executive session is authorized, all applicable requirements as presented in policy BEC, so you would have to refer to BEC about executive sessions, open meetings will be followed. And so it's just adding that language in this policy, that subcommittees of the board could hold executive sessions.
Any questions, comments? No? Nope, okay. Okay, let's move on to 10.4. First reading, Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory, Revision to Current Policy BE, School Board Meetings.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk, members of the board. This was a policy advisory number 500. It was an adjustment in policy, or actually in law, Arizona Revised Statutes 15.321, Section D, in which they add this language. And so this is something that the board clearly should be aware of. A meeting, so it defines what a meeting is. Regular meetings and special meetings is the intent of the policy overall. But it does say that a meeting includes a one-way electronic communication by one member of a public body that is sent to a quorum. So in our case, a five-member board, that would be 3 of the members of that same public body, and that proposes legal action. So that would be constituted as a meeting, is what the statutory language is now saying in policy. A meeting also includes an exchange of electronic communication among a quorum of the members of a public body that involves a discussion, deliberation, or the taking of legal action by the public body concerning a matter likely to come before the public body for action. So the statutory guidance is now providing direction to governing board members what could constitute a meeting if you're doing this electronically. Also, you will see that in the what they've added is that the board may hold other meetings as often as called. So the board has the right to call any meetings that you may want to, which we do already right now, but that's the language that's being added. The only thing I might add, it's not here shown in red or even crossed out, but at the time this policy was written, we were holding our meetings on Thursday. If the board were to direct me tonight, I would change that word Thursday to Tuesday, but or leave it the way it is on Thursday. Okay. So that's that policy section.
Are there any questions on this one?
We're on Thursdays.
We are on Thursday.
Right.
I thought it was Tuesday.
Today's Thursday.
Mr. Croto has.
I go back in the week. We're almost to Friday. Don't
We're
do
almost
that.
to Friday. I
Don't do that.
apologize. Thank you for pointing that out, Mrs. Connect. That's good. That's my error.
Okay, sorry. All right, we are at 10.5. First reading, Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory revision to current policy BEC, executive sessions, open meetings.
Okay. Madam Clerk, members of the board, this was a policy advisory that came from ASBA, and it really just provides more clarity and direction in the posting of notices and eliminates some potential confusion. Primarily, what you'll see here is the change. They went from bullets to actually lettering it out, A, B, C, and D. Also, it does say here that executive session is authorized by a vote in open session, either during the current governing board meeting or at a meeting prior of the board designating the time and date of the future executive session. So what that would provide for is when we have an executive session like this evening, typically we start here first in an open meeting, but this policy now would allow the governing board, if you set the time and date of a future executive session, let's say this evening, then you could just go into executive session that night. The governing board shall provide any officer, appointee, or employee to be considered or discussed at a meeting with written notice of the executive session as is appropriate, but not less than 24 hours for the officer, appointee, or employee to determine whether the discussion or consideration should occur at a public meeting. And we currently practice that very thing, so that's not really new. We do that. But by adding it in the policy, it would clarify.
Okay. Any discussion, comments? No. All right, let's move on to 10.6. First reading Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory Revision to current policy BEDA, notification of board meetings.
Madam Clerk, members of the board, this language is really the same in this policy section. What we just discussed was about executive sessions and open meetings. This policy is just about notification of those board meetings. So as part of the notification, you will see the very same language is there that we would provide 24-hour notice to anyone who may be discussed in executive session.
All right, any comments, questions? Mr. Sandoval shaking his head as he walks in the door. Nope. All
Only
right.
a few more to go.
All right, we're on the roll. Next one, 10.7, first reading Arizona School Boards Association Policy Advisory Revision to current policy BEDF, voting method.
Madam Clerk, members of the board, it is now clear in law that each individual governing body member must vote and each individual member's vote recorded in the minutes. ASBA recommends instituting a roll call vote to ensure this is accomplished. Now, this is in policy, and the board may want to discuss this. I think with our electronic system, we probably cover this. But what it's saying here in the BEDF is votes on all motions and resolutions shall be by ayes, nays, or abstentions. The red section now shows that on a show of hands or roll call, an indication of how each member voted, the names of the members who propose each motion and the names of the person as given who make the statements or present material to the public body, and a reference to the legal action about which they made statements or presented material shall be recorded. So in the event, if our electronic system were to fail, we certainly want to abide by the law, which says we should record and document how each member voted.
Any comments, discussions on this one? No. All right, let's move on. To 10.8, first reading Arizona School Boards Association's Policy Advisory Revision to current policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings.
Madam Clerk, members of the board, this policy update was a policy advisory number 538. It has to ensure compliance with Arizona Revised Statute, Chapter 38, Section 431, which specifically pertains to open meeting law. And the ASBA Policy Advisory Group recommends the following changes. As you know, we do receive public comment from our community, but there are some deletions here. 1 in bullet 3, questions of fact asked by the public shall, when appropriate, be answered by the president or referred to the superintendent for reply. As you know, as a board, we are currently practicing that. The board does not respond to public comment, and we saw this evening your referral to Superintendent Thompson for follow-up. So we're just doing this for compliance. Secondly, you'll see that members of the public may be recognized by the president to assist the board with information for the conduct of official business, and that's eliminated. The official business of the board shall be conducted amongst the board. So those are those changes.
Any comments, questions?
I want to clarify that. So there have been occasions, rare occasions, Mr. Savoy, where members of the board have said, well, we have Mr. Jones in the room. Is what we're discussing, your experience, Mr. Jones, is that no longer allowed, or is it just discouraged?
Madam Clerk, Board Member Connect, I do recall those instances where you may have asked questions. This policy adjustment to align with open meeting law is eliminating that opportunity. I also can recall a few instances where members from the public who were speaking on a particular position were actually providing evidence and documentation to the board to be considered, paper documents. And believe me, I'm going back some time, but just in my recollection. So that would not be allowable under this. And I believe it's for us to be in compliance with the open meeting law. It goes back to the idea of items agendized and given proper notice to our community that they will be discussed prior to the meeting occurring so that everyone knows what the content of each agenda item is prior to the meeting. That's my interpretation.
Would you mind following up with ASBA and
Happy
asking
to.
for some clarification on that? That seems very restrictive to me.
Okay. As far as public being able to respond
As
to
far as
questions
the
from the board.
board members not being able to ask somebody who has firsthand experience a bit of information that may be helpful in the conducting of the conversation.
I'm happy to do that at the will of the board, sure. We'll follow up.
Ms. Springarelli?
Sure.
Mr. Savoy, quick question of clarification. So these two stricken statements are tied to public comment on items that aren't on the agenda, is that correct?
Madam Clerk, Board Member Sandoval, well, during public comment, it's only 2 items that are not on the agenda, correct?
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No. Okay. All right, let's move on to 10.9, first reading, Arizona School Boards Association's Policy Advisory Revision to Current Policy BGD, Board Review of Regulations.
Madam Clerk, members of the board, this is the last of our review of Section B, and really just a very brief portion of wording is being removed as it is unnecessary. So before issuance, regulations shall be properly titled and coded in conformance with the policy classification system, and the part that's being eliminated is selected by the board as far as the classification system.
Any comments, questions? Was that a no, Mrs. Kennedy? Okay. All right, then,
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, and I'll follow up on that and get a response to the entire board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to 10.10, first reading, Arizona School Boards Association's Policy Advisory Revision to Current Policy KB, Parental Involvement in Education. Ms. Aries?
Good evening once again, Mrs. Pingarelli, members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson. I bring you just a few items that have been on our radar to update for you, and they pertain to Section K of our policy, which is school and community relations. So if we can just jump right in, thank you for pulling that up for me. First one that I bring you tonight is KB, and it is related to parental involvement in education. Two quick updates to that we had received, one from 2016 and then one again in 2017. And so if we can scroll, thank you, right to the top there. The first one is in A, and it says the plan for parental involvement in education shall provide for a parent-teacher satisfaction survey, something that we already do as a district, as you know it, as our climate survey that we do every year, typically in the spring. So I wanted to note that addition in there. Also, if you scroll down just slightly, you'll see there in G, and this is procedures by which parents will be notified in advance of the opportunity to withdraw their children from any instruction. It does strike through a bit of text there that you can see calling out specific areas of instruction, presentations regarding sexuality and courses other than formal sex education, and that's been stricken there. We provide that opportunity to all parents for any subject matter. Parents always have the opportunity to remove their child from any particular content area that we are providing to their students. So that's noted for you there as well. And if we can keep scrolling through there, or does that bring us to the conclusion of that one? Thank you. Keeps going up. Back up to the top again. And this is striking through the right to participate in a parental satisfaction survey to be distributed to the parent of every child enrolled. And you can see there the ARS provision included. And of course, it's because we have that addition at the front part of this particular policy, as I noted. Any questions on that one before I proceed on, if you'd like? Okay.
Are we, nothing?
Nothing?
Okay.
I can move right along if you'd like. And I'll take you then to KDBE, I believe, should be our next one that we're pulling up. And this one is in request to public records. And this one is the one I might want to spend just an extra moment on, if you don't mind. And KDBE, is not one of the ones that we had an advisory on, but it's one that I bring forward to you, and this is actually an exhibit. We don't typically bring you an exhibit, but you'll see in the next one that we review, the reason that I'm bringing this one forward. We just needed to update our exhibit to mirror what we actually have on our website currently, which is the form that any of our patrons fill out when they do want to request any public records. So you can see the deletions and additions that are on there, just to make sure that the two items mirror each other as it's presented to our public. So I did want to provide that one for you. In particular, if you'd scroll just down slightly for me, something that you do not typically approve, as I shared, exhibits and regulations, but I am bringing this forward for your review kind of as a one-off this evening as it relates to the fees that we charge for our public records requests. For years dating back further than I can find any records, we have charged at the rate of 5 cents per page for photocopies that we reproduce for our community. After surveying all of the other comparable districts across the state, we have noted we are by far the lowest of any district in what we charge, something that dated back so far. We hadn't updated our fees. Those that charge the most charge $1 per page for reproduction of records, and there weren't any that charged what we charged at 5 cents. I am proposing to you all that we bring that up somewhere into the middle at 50 cents per page to make that a little bit more comparable to what other districts around the state are charging for photocopies. What I will note for you and for your consideration on this one is most times we are able to reproduce records electronically, of which we are not allowed to charge for records that we reproduce electronically. So on the off chance that we do have to make photocopies for a particular reason to provide them, this then would be the new rate for that particular piece. So I bring that forward to you. If you don't mind, Mrs. Pingarelli, the next one is related to that one. So if you don't mind if I go through that one for you before I pause for questions on this.
Nope,
this is the actual regulation. So this is the regulation that's noting, so if we can go on to the next one, if you don't mind, please. This is the regulation that is noting that change in fee. So again, that is why I'm bringing this one forward. So this is not an ASBA regulated update. This is just one that while we were coming forward to you, we knew we really have been overdue in addressing these fees with you. So I did just want to present this one forward to you all. And again, that's KDBR, and this is simply the regulation. And if you scroll down, you'll see fax pages or photocopies. So I'll pause for any questions you may have on that one.
Comments?
No?
Do you ever use a fax around here anymore?
No. But we list it as an option.
I will say that when I got Amy's records, and she's 38 years old, it was 5 cents then.
Yes.
I remember that.
It's been at that rate for some time.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, I do, so for KDBR, Public's Right to Know / Freedom of Information, on page, or actually paragraph, several paragraphs down, requirements of access. There is public inspection of a document that otherwise would be a public record may be denied by the superintendent. It lists 3 items. The record is made confidential by statute. 2, the record involves the privacy interests of persons. And number 3, which I have an issue with, disclosure would be detrimental to the best interest of the district. I just want to find out who determines if it's detrimental, and then as long as the board is able to, that is able to be brought to the board, so the board can decide if, in the rare instances that something would be denied by the superintendent, that the board would be able to look at that.
Mrs. Pingrelli, if you'd like, I can clarify slightly.
Sure.
This does rarely happen. What I can share is
know.
that it would be something that might be related either to a personnel matter, which could
Right.
also fall really underneath this privacy interest. But
Right.
what I can tell you, the best interest piece is something that the superintendent may perceive could potentially be something that becomes a legal matter.
Okay.
And so knowing that it might involve maybe an incident that took place on a campus, an incident with a student, and maybe we've had a threat of litigation of some sort that hasn't yet surfaced as an actual suit yet, but knowing that, and the superintendent is privy to that, and so that might be an item that would fall into that area.
And that's- I was
Again, it's
gonna-
very rare.
Okay, yeah, I know it's rare. I was just going to ask you for examples, which, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Nope. All right, let's move on.
So we'll proceed on. The next item that I bring forward with you is a recommendation from ASBA. And this is KFAA, or it should be KFAA. This is smoking on school premises at public functions. And the recommendation that they're bringing forward is to delete this policy in its entirety. The reason that they're sharing with us is that there are general and inclusive prohibitions pertaining to smoking codified under Title 36, which is public health and safety. And so it's more all-encompassing. So they are recommending that we strike this policy.
Any comments, questions?
Exists where else?
It exists in Title 36 under public health and safety.
As long as it exists.
All right.
Shall I proceed
Let's move
then?
on. Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Next one I bring you is KHC, and this is the distribution or posting of promotional materials. And we'll get this one opened up for you. And a couple of different items, and mostly this is striking language. Actually, it is striking language in 2 different areas of this particular policy. This is to allow for a broader opportunity for the superintendent or the superintendent's designee to have advertising opportunities, for the community and for materials. I can tell you some of this is within our flyer policy, or some of this is practice we are really already doing, and so this is kind of bringing it to make sure it's a little clearer. But this is as it relates to items that we may be sending home with students, and we're pretty clear and pretty strict on that. All of those flyers do circulate through the Public Relations and Communications Office. You'll note that any flyers or written materials have to include the school district's disclaimer before they are approved for distribution. And to that end, we do not allow anything that is a for-profit entity to be sent home in backpacks with students. The exceptions to those may be different fundraising activities as it relates to the Booster Club PTSOs on campus. So there are some pretty strict rules about that. ASBA is recommending that we strike these two sections from this policy.
Any comments, questions? No. All right.
Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, we'll bring these forward for a second reading then in consent in our next agenda.
Thank you very
Thank
much. All right. We are up to 10.15. Report and discussion on local, state, and federal legislative issues and activities. Mrs. Myers?
Good evening, Mrs. Pingarelli, members of the board, Superintendent Pallas Thompson. I do have an update. At the Arizona Association of School Business Officials meeting yesterday, Paul Bentz, a research professional, provided some interesting statistics. The estimated population of Arizona is approximately 7 million people. The population over 18 is 5.3 million, and registered voters are approximately 3.6 million. These statistics show that approximately 67% of eligible voters are registered. And in the primary, 33% voted. So there's still time to improve the statistics. The November election deadline to register is October 9th.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And anyone can register at servicearizona.com.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Oh, okay. Then let's move on to item 11.1, Budget Facilities Planning and Construction Report. And this can be found on our website for anybody that would like to peruse it. Thank you. Next item. Is report on upcoming meetings, items. Mrs. Aries, you have something for us tonight?
I do. Mrs. Pingarelli, members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, I did want to draw your attention to at least one item that should be included up there. I do see it right there in the center on September 20th. It's our Community Engagement Forum, and it's taking place at 6 p.m. at Centennial High School. All members of our community, parents, even students, are invited to come out and join us for this event. I can tell you it will be one you do not want to miss. It's an opportunity for us to hear your voice, and as I shared with many members of our parents yesterday, we do an awful lot with social media for our district and electronic communication, but we really do value the opportunity to move from rows to round tables and to look our community in the eye and to get some solid feedback on what we're doing well and maybe what we could improve. At this particular forum, we'll focus on three of the areas of our strategic plan in those breakout sessions. The fourth, which is community connection, we are featuring that one online in a breakout that takes place through Facebook Live. What's unique to this event, if you cannot join us in person, we'll be live streaming it not only onto YouTube, but also onto our social channels. And through a partnership with the City of Peoria, we'll be airing live on Cox Cable Channel 11. So multiple ways for you to tap into this event and to participate. So we're really hoping that our community comes out and that we can hear a little bit of feedback from them. If you don't mind, Ms. Pingarelli, one additional event that I would like to point out that's not included on the list before you is something taking place tomorrow, in fact. And tomorrow is our very own superintendent's birthday. Mrs. Linda Pallas Thompson will celebrate a birthday tomorrow. So I did want to just acknowledge her. And I don't know if I could maybe put Mr. Gay on the spot to lead us in a little happy birthday rendition for her this evening. So, Mr. Gay, if you would.
We should have Miss Stone.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Linda. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, wow, you guys are the best. Listen to their group.
Wow, Mr. Gay,
Thank you, team. It's a pleasure.
Mrs. Thompson, I know that was lovely, but if you don't mind if I speak for you, maybe not quite even as stellar as the serenade that you received earlier today from our students at Cactus High School.
Totally amazing. We were at our student council luncheon that we do every quarters. We're doing it is that what it is? And they're actually, our student council, as I mentioned, is going to be coming in and giving a report the next 2 weeks from now. And the culinary group and came out with a candle and a cake and sang, and it was amazing. It was crazy amazing. So, okay, we're hiding the rest of the birthdays now. That's perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Gay, you have a great voice.
He does. That's why I should put it there. Thank you, John.
All right, let's move on then to 12.1, draft agenda for September 27th, 2018 regular board meeting. All right, more policies. All right, next item is 12.2, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Mrs. Connect?
Thank you, Mrs. Pingarelli. I'd like to take a look at tardiness across the district to identify whether or not that's an issue, and if so, what size. And along with that, I'd like to know what are the consequences for tardiness? How do we deal with that at our different campuses? If it's consistent, if different schools do it different ways. It can be in a board report, and if it warrants further discussion, we can move on from there.
Okay. Sandoval?
Oh, does anybody else want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Thought I heard. Sandoval, do you have anything?
I don't, but I don't know if I'm missing or if there's a page missing, but I don't see some of the items that we've discussed earlier, like our Title I monies, allocations. I don't see that on there.
Was this one, Mr. Sandoval, you had asked?
What's that?
That was one you had asked for before.
Yeah, it's one that was second, and I just don't see it listed. So hopefully we can get that added back on. So other than that, I don't have anything in addition to add. Thank you.
What's missing?
The appropriation of our Title I dollars.
And
You're asking for a report, or? Well, yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, yeah, it's a report on the dollars that are.
It's not necessarily.
I don't, actually, I think it's a topic that came up at the retreat that I think it's probably time to revisit, Title I in general, to get the board updated on what's coming in and how it's being utilized across the district.
Right, exactly right.
I think that would be very helpful because it would give the community a chance to catch up on how that works too. I think that would be good.
We're trying to, my understanding is then we're looking to do an agenda on the title with respect to the money that's coming in, but how it's being used and
Correct.
Any concerns. Okay, we can do that.
Mr. Sandoval, anything else?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Doan?
I don't have anything, thanks.
I don't have anything either tonight. All right, last item. 13.1, adjournment. Should we do a voice vote?
Well, we can.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for staying this late. Appreciate it. See you in 2 weeks.